Shabbat Shalom, Yasharala. We are on part 13 of the Torah portions. This is week 1 for Exodus chapter 1. We have a ton of the book of Jasher, which will be filling in the gaps that has happened between Joseph and the rest of the sons of Yaakov, and all the way to the time of captivity, because from the end of Genesis, we have the death of Joseph, and then what shortly follows after that is the death of his brothers. And then out of nowhere, boom, in Exodus, they're in captivity, doing slave work in the land of Egypt. So we will fill that gap today. But before we get started, y'all know what's up. This fellowship study, let's open up with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for allowing us to be here in your presence, Abba. We ask that you send the Ruach for wisdom and for guidance. And we ask that you protect this line of fellowship. In all that we do, we thank you in the name of Yasha. Amen. Let's get this thing started. Oh, one second. Let me see here. Share. All right. So week 13, Exodus 1:1 to 4:17 this week. All right, so we're going to start off reading Exodus 1:1 through 7.
The book of Exodus, chapter 1. Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. But Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them.
All right. First pause break. So like I said, we had the end of Genesis to beginning of Exodus is pretty much the deaths of the 12 sons of Yaakov. And then it goes pretty much right into the captivity. So let's fill in the gaps here. We're going to be in Jasher chapter 61. And we're going to start off reading 1 through 11. And it came to pass at that time, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, commanded all his people to make for him a strong palace in Egypt. And he also commanded the sons of Jacob to assist the Egyptians in the building. And the Egyptians made a beautiful and elegant place for a royal habitation. And he dwelt therein. And he renewed his government, and he reigned securely. And Zebulun, the son of Jacob, died in that year. That is the 72nd year of the going down of the Israelites to Egypt. And Zebulun died 114 years old, and was put into a coffin and given into the hands of his children. And in the 75th year died his brother Simeon. He was 120 years old at his death, and he was also put into a coffin and given into the hands of his children. And Zepho, the son of Eliphaz, the son of Esau, captain of hosts, to Angus, king of Dihaba, was still daily enticing Angus to prepare for battle to fight with the sons of Jacob in Egypt. And Anges was unwilling to do this thing, for his servants had related to him all the might of the sons of Yaakov, what they had done unto them in their battle with the children of Esau. And Zepho was in those days daily enticing Anges to fight with the sons of Yaakov in those days. And there's a reason why they're giving these details, because this actually comes into fruition later on. Just throwing that out there. Verse 7. And after some time, Anges hearkened to the words of Zepho and consented to him. Oh, well, it's right here. To fight with the sons of Yaakov in Egypt. And Anges got all his people in order, and people numerous as the sea, as the sand which is upon the seashore. And he formed his resolution to go to Egypt to battle. And amongst the servants of Anges was a youth 15 years old, Balaam, the son of Beor, was his name. And the youth was very wise and understood the art of witchcraft. And Anges said unto Balaam, conjure for us, I pray thee, with the witchcraft, that we may know who will prevail in this battle to which we are now proceeding. And Balaam ordered that they should bring him wax, and he made thereof the likeness of chariots and horsemen, representing the armies of Anges and the army of Egypt. And he put them in the cunningly prepared waters that he had for that purpose. And he took in his hand the boughs of myrtle trees, and he exercised his cunning, and he joined them over the water. And they are prepared unto him in the battle, in the water, and resembled images of the hosts of Anges, falling before the resembling images of the Egyptians and the sons of Jacob. And Balaam told this thing to Anges, and Anges despaired and did not arm himself to go down to Egypt to battle, and he remained in his city. So it doesn't happen quite here yet, but the real battle will happen eventually with Zippo, the son of Esau. All right, it was 11. And we're going to do a couple of precepts, and we're focusing on Balaam here. This is the first introduction of Balaam. And Balaam is oddly is a prominent figure, not just in the Torah, but he's even mentioned in the book of Revelation. Very dominant figure that is, I don't know, comes out of nowhere. And this is our first reading of him. All right, so let's go to Numbers, which is obviously a part of the Torah, will be read eventually down the line, but wanted to touch on that Balaam is first mentioned in Numbers 22 and 23, as we see right here. And he sent messengers, therefore, unto Balaam, the son of Beor. So we see that this is the same exact guy. Where is it? Yeah, Balaam, son of Beor, right? And this is, we'll get to this. I ain't even trying to go all into Numbers. We're going to get to Numbers. But this is when he sets a stumbling block over Israel, right? And we see this in the book of Revelation. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Yasharallah, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. So Balaam is so prominent. He is, we'll see, one of the musicians of Pharaoh for the majority of the time that Egypt is in captivity. And he is even around in Numbers after the captivity. And then he's even used as an example in the book of Revelation. So we're going to see this guy throughout, and there's a reason for it. And I have a note. Let's just go for, let's see. kicks, because after we read in Revelation, it says this in 73 of Jasher. Let's go to that real quick. 73 verse 28 and 29. And Balaam, the musician. They are the sorcerers and magicians who are mentioned in the book of the law, the Torah, standing against Moses when the Most High brought the plagues upon Egypt. And we're going to see it. That Balaam is that guy that is one of the musicians of Pharaoh that was during the entire plagues in Egypt. And he, like I said, is even in the book of Numbers as well after the captivity, oppressing his people. All right. Now, this little introduction and know-how with Balaam. Let's continue with the reading. We're going to lots of Jasher today, going to chapter 62. Verse 1 through 5, and then we're going to do 23 and 24 of this chapter. All right, verse 1 through 5. In that year, being the 79th year of the Israelites going down to Egypt, died Reuben, the son of Jacob, in the land of Egypt. Reuben was 125 years old when he died, and they put him into a coffin, and he was given into the hands of his children. And in the 80th year died his brother Dan. He was 120 years at his death, and he was also put into a coffin and given into the hands of his children. And in that year died Cush, king of Edom, and after him reigned Hadad, the son of Bedad, for 35 years. And in the 81st year died Issachar, the son of Yaakov, in Egypt. And Issachar was 122 years old at his death. And he was put into a coffin in Egypt and given into the hands of his children. And in the 82nd year died Asher, his brother. He was 123 years old at his death, and he was placed in a coffin in Egypt and given into the hands of his children. And in the 83rd year died Gad. He was 125 years old at his death, and he was put into a coffin in Egypt and given into the hands of his children. All right, so now we covered the majority of I believe Levi is the only one alive. I believe all the other sons of Yaakov has passed at this point, if I'm not mistaken. 23, verse 23 and 24 now, same chapter of 62. Oh, we still have Judah. Yeah, and it came to pass at that time, Judah, the son of Yaakov, died in Egypt in the 86th year of Yaakov going down to Egypt. And Judah was 129 years old at his death, and they embalmed him and put him in a coffin, and he was given into the hands of his children. And in the 89th year died Naphtali. He was 132 years old, and he was put into a coffin and given into the hands of his children. So I mean, after chapter 62, I think Levi was left. And I believe that's correct right here. Yeah. The last brother after chapter 62 is Levi. And in the 93rd year died Levi, the son of Yaakov in Egypt. And Levi was 137 years old when he died. And they put him into a coffin, and he was given into the hands of his children. And it came to pass after the death of Levi, when all Egypt saw the sons of Yaakov, the brethren of Joseph, were dead, all the Egyptians began to afflict the children of Yaakov, to embitter their lives from the day unto the day of their going forth from Egypt. And they took from their hands all the vineyards and fields which Joseph had given unto them, and all the elegant houses in which the people of Israel lived, and all the fat of Egypt. And the Egyptians took all from the sons of Jacob in those days. And the hand of all Egypt became more grievous in those days against the children of Yasharallah. The Egyptians injured the Israelites until the children of Israel were wearied of their lives on account of the Egyptians. And it came to pass in those days, in the 102nd year of Israel going down to Egypt, that Pharaoh, king of Egypt, died, and Melo, Malol, his son, reigned in his stead, and all the mighty men of Egypt and all that generation which knew Joseph and his brethren died in those days. And another generation rose up in their stead, which had not known the sons of Jacob and all the good which they had done to them and all their might in Egypt. Therefore, all Egypt began from that day forth to embitter the lives of the sons of Jacob and to afflict them with all manner of hard labor, because they had not known their ancestors who had delivered them in the days of the famine. All right, and I'm using this website, Safara.org. And I don't know why I didn't think of this. I had this on my favorites, but thank you, Shekinah, for telling me that I could just go here for the verses, because the other manuscript that I was using didn't have the verses. So here we are. This one does. So this is much better to be using on these live studies, and I will be using it henceforth. So just one verse I want to point out in context of the Targums that I have been doing. We're going to go to verse 5 here. Is it verse 5? Let me double check. I don't think it doesn't say anything different. Let me see. 1 second. Oops. Yeah, disregard. I didn't mean to write that. Didn't need that there. All right. So no Targum precept for this one. All right, back to Exodus. We're going to read the rest of chapter 1, 8 through 22 now.
Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass, that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters, to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, When ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives, and said unto them, Why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, Because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, but they are lively, and are delivered ere the midwives come in unto them. Therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied, and waxed very mighty. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, Every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive.
All right, now we're going into the Targum. verse 15, and then we're going to read 19 through 21. All right, we see this 15 versus this 15, right? This is one sentence, so there's a lot more written in the Targum, so let's read it. And Pharaoh told that he, being asleep, had seen in his dream, behold, all the land of Mizraim was placed in one scale of balance, and a lamb, the young of a sheep, was ill the other scale, I guess, on the other scale, and the scale with the lamb in it overweighed. So we have Egypt on one side of the scale and a lamb on the other side. I think we're already getting where this is going. Forthwith he sent and called all the musicians of Mizraim and imparted to them his dream. Immediately Janus and Jambres, the chief of the musicians, opened their mouth and answered Pharaoh, a certain child is about to be born in the congregation of Yasharallah, by whose hand will be destruction to all the land of Mizraim. Therefore did Pharaoh, king of Mizraim, give counsel to the Hebrew midwives, the name of whom was Shiphrah and Jokev. And so, yeah, all right, so we have a prophecy hidden in the Targums of a scale of Egypt being outweighed by the lamb. We already know that this is referring to Passover. All right, let's go to 19 through 22 now. And the midwives said to Pharaoh, the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptians, for they are sturdy or courageous and wise-minded. Okay, ladies, shouts out. Before the midwife cometh to them, they lift up their eyes in prayer, supplicating mercy before their Father who is in heaven, who heareth the voice of their prayer, and at once they are heard and bring forth and are delivered in peace. So this is the reason why I wanted to read it. Like, these details matter. It's not just because, oh, they're the blood of Jacob. It's because these women was carrying themselves different. So they were treated different. Even with these, Egyptian women, they were treated different because they carried themselves like that, such. And the Adon did good to the midwives, and the people multiplied and prevailed greatly. And for as much as the midwives feared before the Adon, they obtained for themselves a good name unto the ages, and the word of the Adon upbuilded for them a royal house, even the house of the high priesthood. Amen. So, ladies, this passage 19 to 21 is for you. Even women will be invited in the house of high priesthood in the time of the eternal Mashiach. All right, so let's get back to the book of Jasher, chapter 64. We're going to read 8 through 50. We have a couple of pretty big readings in Jasher. Here's one of them. This is 42 verses, so let's roll. So here we go. Here's the son of Esau, or the descendant of Esau. For Zippo heard that the mighty men of Egypt were dead, that Joseph and his brethren, the sons of Jacob, were dead, and that all the children of Israel remained in Egypt. And Zippo considered to go to fight against them in all Egypt to avenge the cause of his brethren, the children of Esau, whom Joseph with his brethren in all Egypt has smitten in the land of Canaan, when they went up to bury Jacob in Hebron. And Zippo sent messengers to Hadad, son of Bedad, king of Edom, and to all his brethren, the children of Esau, saying, did you not say that you would not fight against the king of Africa, for he is a member of your covenant? Behold, I fought with him and smote him and all his people. Now, therefore, I have resolved to fight against Egypt and the children of Yaakov who are there, and I will be revenged of them for what Joseph, his brethren and ancestors did to us in the land of Canaan when they went up to bury their father in Hebron. Now then, and are we seeing that a lot of the rest of Jasher is based on the timing of Jacob's death with Esau? So we spoke about this last week with the Jubilee's death of Esau, how it just shatters this entire timeline, right? So, food for thought. Now then, if you are willing to come to me to assist me in fighting against them in Egypt, then shall we avenge the cause of our brethren. The children of Esau hearkened to the words of Zippo, and the children of Esau gathered themselves together, a very great people, and they went to assist Zippo, the children of Shittim, in battle. And Zippo sent to all the children of the east and to all the children of Ishmael with the words like unto these, and they gathered themselves and came to the assistance of Zippo and the children of Shittim in the war upon Egypt. And all the kings of Edom, and the children of the east, and all the children of Ishmael, and Zippo, the king of Shittim, went forth and arrayed all their hosts in Hebron. And the camp was very heavy, extending in the length a distance of 3 days' journey, a people numerous as the sand upon the seashore, which cannot be counted. And all these kings and their hosts went down and came against all Egypt in battle, and encamped together in the valley of Pathros. And all Egypt heard their report, and they also gathered themselves together, all the people of the land of Egypt and of all the cities belonging to Egypt, about 300,000 men. And the men of Egypt sent also to the children of Israel who were in those days in the land of Goshen to come to them in order to fight with these kings. And the men of Israel assembled and were about 150 men. So let's clarify this real quick. Israel bringing forth 150 men, and they went into battle to assist the Egyptians that had 300,000 men. So it's a pretty staggering difference, right? Context for later. That is very big, different numbers. And the men of Israel and of Egypt went forth, about 300,000 men and 150 men. And they went towards these kings to battle, and they placed themselves from without the land of Goshen opposite Pathros. And the Egyptians believed not in Israel to go with them in their camps together for battle, for all the Egyptians said, perhaps the children of Israel will deliver us into the hand of the children of Esau and Ishmael, for they are their brethren. And all the Egyptians said unto the children of Israel, remain you here together in your stand, and we will go and fight against the children of Esau and Ishmael. And if these kings should prevail over us, then come you together, all together upon them, and assist us. And the children of Israel did so. And Zippo, the son of Eliphaz, the son of Esau, king of Shittim, and Hadad, the son of Bedad, king of Edom, and all their camps, and all the children of the east, and children of Ishmael, a people numerous as sand, and camped together in the valley of Pathros, opposite of Patches. Balaam, here we go again. You're going to see this name quite a few times, this Torah portion. And Balaam, the son of Beor, the Syrian, was there in the camp of Zippo. For he came with the children of Shittim to the battle, and Balaam was a man highly honored in the eyes of Zippo and his men. And Zippo said unto Balaam, try by divination for us, that we may know who will prevail in the battle, we or the Egyptians. And Balaam rose up and tried the art of divination, and he was skillful in the knowledge of it, but he was confused, and the work was destroyed in his hand. And he tried it again, but it did not succeed. And Balaam despaired of it and left it and did not complete it, for this was from the Most High, in order to cause Zeppo and his people to fall into the hand of the children of Yasharallah, who had trusted in the Most High, the Elohim of their ancestors, in their war. Zeppo and Hadad put their forces in battle array, and all the Egyptians went alone against them, about 300,000 men, and not one man of Israel was with them. And all the Egyptians fought with the kings opposite of Pathros and Tachpatches. The battle was severe against the Egyptians, and the kings were stronger than the Egyptians in that battle. And about 180 men of Egypt fell on that day, and about 30 men of the forces of the kings. And all the men of Egypt fled from before the kings. So the children of Esau and Ishmael pursued the Egyptians, continuing to smite them unto the place where was the camp of the children of Israel. And all the and all the Egyptians cried unto the children of Israel, saying, hasten to us and assist us and save us from the hand of Esau, Ishmael, and the children of Shittim. And the 150 men of the children of Israel ran from their station to the camp of these kings. And the children of Israel cried unto the Adon, their Elohim, to deliver them. And the Most High hearkened to Yasharallah, and the Adon gave all the men of the children into their hand. And the men of the kings into their hand, and the children of Israel fought against these kings, and the children of Israel smote about 4,000 of the king's men. And the Most High threw a great consternation in the camp of the kings, so that the fear of the children of Israel fell upon them. And all the hosts of the kings fled from before the children of Israel, and the children of Israel pursued them, continuing to smite them unto the borders of the land of Cush. And the children of Israel slew of them in the road yet 2,000 men, and of the children of Israel not one fell. So 2,000, 0. And when the Egyptians saw that the children of Israel had fought with such few men with the kings, and that the battle was so severe against them, all the Egyptians were greatly afraid of their lives on account of the strong battle, and all Egypt fled, every man hiding himself from the arrayed forces, and they hid themselves in the road, and they left the Israelites to fight. All the children of Israel inflicted a terrible blow upon the king's men, and they returned from them after they had driven them to the border of the land of Cush. And all Israel knew the thing which the men of Egypt had done to them, that they had fled from them in battle and had left them to fight alone. So the children of Israel also acted with cunning. And as the children of Israel returned from battle, they found some of the Egyptians in the road and smote them there. And whilst they slew them, they said them these words, wherefore did you go from us and leave us, being a few people, to fight against these kings who had a great people to smite us, that you might thereby deliver your own souls? And of some which the Israelites met on the road, they, the children of Israel, spoke to each other, saying, smite, smite, for he is an Ishmaelite or an Edomite, or from the children of Shittim. And they stood over him and slew him, and they knew that he was an Egyptian. And the children of Israel did these things cunningly against the Egyptians, because they had deserted them in battle and had fled from them. And the children of Israel slew of the men of Egypt in the road in this manner about 200 men. And all the men of Egypt saw the evil which the children of Israel had done to them. So all Egypt feared greatly the children of Israel, for they had seen their great power, and that not one man of them had fallen. So all the children of Israel returned with joy on the road to Goshen, and the rest of Egypt returned, each man to his place. All right, that was chapter 64. We're going to stay right here in Jasher for all the way. We're going to read all of 65 next. We're about to read 1 through 38. Yep, that's all of 65. We're going to have some reading in 66 and 67. We're going to stay right here. There's a lot of fillers happening right now. All right. The entirety of 65. Here we come. And it came to pass after these things that all the counselors of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and all the elders of Egypt assembled and came before the king and bowed down to the ground, and they sat before him. And the counselors and elders of Egypt spoke unto the king, saying, Behold, the people of the children of Israel is greater and mightier than we are. And thou knowest all the evil which they did to us in the road when we returned from battle. And thou has also seen their strong power, for this power is unto them from their fathers. For but a few men stood up against a people numerous as the sand, and smote them at the edge of the sword, and of themselves not one has fallen, so that if they had been numerous, they would have utterly destroyed them. This doesn't it sounds like the movie 300, a few standing against a massive army, right? Most of these movies, man, is real in the spiritual realm, or it just happened a long time ago and modeled for Hollywood. Now, therefore, give us counsel what to do with them until we gradually destroy them from amongst us, lest they become too numerous for us in the land. So I just want to say, we see that there was events that led up to it. It wasn't just like overnight that they just was coming after the Israelites. We see now that they're fearful of the Israelites, so they started scheming against them. Because this is all, let me just say that, we already read chapter 1 in its entirety, but this is still before the timing that they were killing their children and whatnot. So we're leading into that. This is filling the gaps until we get to that end of chapter 1. For if the children of Israel, verse 6 of 65, let's continue. For if the children of Israel should increase in the land, they will become an obstacle to us. And if any war should happen to take place, they with their great strength will join our enemy against us and fight against us, destroy us from the land and go away from it. So the king answered the elders of Egypt and said unto them, This is the plan advised against Israel, from which we will not depart. Behold, in the land are Pithhof and Ramses, cities unfortified against battle. It behooves you and us to build them and to fortify them. Now, therefore, go you also and act cunningly toward them, and proclaim a voice in Egypt and in Goshen at the command of the king, saying, All ye men of Egypt, Goshen and Pathros, and all their inhabitants, the king has commanded us to build Pithhof and Ramses and to fortify them for battle. Who amongst you of all Egypt and the children of Israel and of all the inhabitants of the city are willing to build with us, shall each have his wages given to him daily at the king's order. So go you first and do cunningly and gather yourselves and come to Pithom and Ramses to build. And while you are building, cause a proclamation of this kind to be made throughout Egypt every day at the command of the king. And when some of the children of Israel shall come to build with you, you shall give them their wages daily for a few days. And after they shall have built with you for their daily hire, drag yourselves away from them daily one by one in secret. And then you shall rise up and become their taskmasters and officers. And you shall leave them afterwards to build without wages. And should they refuse, then force them with all your might to build. And if you do this, it will be well with us to strengthen our land against the children of Israel, for on account of the fatigue of the building and the work, the children of Israel will decrease, because you will derive them from their wives day by day. And all the elders of Egypt heard the counsel of the king, and the counsel seemed good in their eyes and in the eyes of the servants of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all Egypt. And they did according to the word of the king. And all the servants went away from the king, and they caused a proclamation to be made in all Egypt, and Tachpanhes and in Goshen, and all the cities which surround Egypt, saying, you have seen what the children of Esau and Ishmael did to us, who came to war against us and wished to destroy us. Now, therefore, the king commanded us to fortify the land, to build the cities of Pithom and Ramses, and to fortify them for battle if they should again come against us. Whosoever of you from all Egypt and from the children of Israel will come to build with us, we shall have his daily wages given by the king as he commanded is unto us. And when Egypt and all the children of Israel heard all that the servants of Pharaoh had spoken, there came from the Egyptians and the children of Israel to build with the servants of Pharaoh, Pithom and Ramses, but none of the children of Levi came with their brethren to build. So all the other tribes went to build, but Levi. And all the servants of Pharaoh and his princes came at first with the seat to build with all Israel as daily hired laborers, and they gave to Israel their daily hire at the beginning. And the servants of Pharaoh built with all Israel and were employed in that work with Israel for a month. And at the end of the month, all the servants of Pharaoh began to withdraw secretly from the people of Israel daily. And Israel went on with the work at that time, but they then received their daily hire, because some of the men of Egypt were yet carrying on the work with Israel at that time. Therefore, the Egyptians gave Israel their hire in those days, in order that they, the Egyptians, their fellow workmen, might also take the pay for their labor. And at the end of a year and 4 months, all the Egyptians had withdrawn from the children of Israel, so that the children of Israel were left alone, engaged in the work. And after all the Egyptians had withdrawn from the children of Israel, they returned and became oppressors and officers over them. And some of them stood over the children of Israel as taskmasters to receive from them all that they gave them for the pay of their labor. And the Egyptians did in this manner to the children of Israel day by day, in order to afflict in their work. And all the children of Israel were alone engaged in the labor, and the Egyptians refrained from giving any pay to the children of Israel from that time forward. And when some of the men of Israel refused to work on account of the wages not being given to them, then the exactors and the servants of Pharaoh oppressed them and smote them with heavy blows, and made them return by force to labor with their brethren. Thus did all the Egyptians unto the children of Israel all the days. And all the children of Israel were greatly afraid of the Egyptians in this matter. And all the children of Israel returned and worked alone without pay. And the children of Israel built Pithoth and Ramses, and all the children of Israel did work, some making bricks and some building. And the children of Israel built and fortified all the land of Egypt and its walls. And the children of Israel were engaged in work for many years until the time came when the Most High remembered them and brought them out of the land of Egypt. But the children of Levi were not employed in the work with their brethren of Israel from the beginning unto the day of their going forth from Egypt. All the children of Levi knew that the Egyptians had spoken all these words with deceit to the Israelites. Therefore, the children of Levi refrained from approaching to the work with their brethren. And the Egyptians did not direct their attention to make the children of Levi work afterwards, since they had not been with their brethren at the beginning. Therefore, the Egyptians left them alone. And the hands of men of Egypt were directed with continued severity against the children of Israel in that work. The Egyptians made the children of Israel work with rigor. And the Egyptians embittered the lives of the children of Israel with hard work in mortar and bricks, and also in all manner of work in the field. And the children of Israel called Melo, the king of Egypt, Mero, king of Egypt, because in those days the Egyptians had embittered their lives with all manner of work. In all the work wherein the Egyptians made the children of Israel labor, they exacted with rigor in order to afflict the children of Israel. But the more they afflicted them, the more they increased and grew, and the Egyptians were grieved because of the children of Israel. All right. Filling in these gaps little by little. Now we're going to read chapter 66, 7 through 31. So the Egyptians said unto the children of Israel, hasten, do your work, and finish your task, and strengthen the land, lest the children of Esau, your brethren, should come to fight against us, for on your account will they come against us. And the children of Israel did the work of the men of Egypt day by day, and the Egyptians afflicted the children of Israel in order to lessen them in the land. But as the Egyptians increased the labor upon the children of Israel, so did the children of Israel increase and multiply. And all Egypt was filled with the children of Israel. And in the 125th year of Israel's going down into Egypt, all the Egyptians saw that their counsel did not succeed against Israel, but they increased and grew in the land of Egypt, in the land of Goshen, were filled with the children of Israel. So all the elders of Egypt and its wise men came before the king and bowed down to him and sat before him. And all the elders of Egypt and the wise men thereof said unto the king, may the king live forever. Thou didst counsel us the counsel against the children of Israel, and we did unto them according to the word of the king. But in proportion to the increase of the labor, so do they increase and grow in the land. Behold, the whole country is filled with them. Now, therefore, our Lord and King, the eyes of all Egypt are upon thee to give them advice with thy wisdom, by which they may prevail over Israel to destroy them or to diminish them from the land. And the king answered them, saying, give you counsel in this manner, that we may know what to do with them. And an officer, one of the king's counselors, whose name was Job, from Mesopotamia, in the land of Uz. And we're going to see that this is the same what we went over last week. This is the same Job. It's got to be the same Job, even though, maybe the timeline could be a little slightly off here and there, but this is the same Job, and I'll show you in a second. But Job gives some awkward advice here in this passage. Answer the king, saying, if it please the king, let him hear the counsel of his servants. And the king said unto him, speak. And Job spoke before the king, the princes, and before all the elders of Egypt, saying, behold, the counsel of the king, which he advised formerly respecting the labor of the children of Israel, is very good, and you must not remove from them that labor forever. But this is the advice counseled by which you may lessen them. If it seems good to the king to afflict them, behold, we have feared war for a long time. And we said, when Israel becomes fruitful in the land, they will drive us from the land if a war should take place. If it please the king, let a royal decree go forth, and let it be written in the laws of Egypt, which shall not be revoked, that every male child. So this is what is written in the first chapter, the second half of the first chapter of Exodus about the male child. We're just now getting there now. So yeah, the taskmasters and all of that, that was like 8 through 14. And now where the king speaks to the midwives. So now we're getting close to the same timeline, ending it. If it please the king, let a royal decree go forth, and let it be written in the laws of Egypt, which shall not be revoked, that every male child born to the Israelites, his blood shall be spilled upon the ground. And by your doing this, when all the male children of Israel shall have died, the evil of their wars will cease. Let the king do so, and send for all the Hebrew midwives, and order them in this matter to execute it. So the thing pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Job. And the king sent for the Hebrew midwives to be called, of which the name of one was Shepra, and the name of the other was Puah. And the midwives came before the king and stood in his presence. And the king said unto them, when you do the office of the midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But if you will not do this thing, then I will burn you up and all your houses with fire. But the midwives feared Elohim and did not hearken to the king of Egypt, nor to his words. When the Hebrew women brought forth to the midwife son or daughter, then did the midwife do all that was necessary to the children and let it live. Thus did the midwives all the days. And this thing was told to the king, and he sent and called for the midwives, and he said to them, why have you done this thing and have saved the children alive? And the midwife answered and spoke together before the king, saying, let not the king think that the Hebrew women are as the Egyptian women, for all the children of Israel are held, and before the midwife comes to them, they are delivered. And as for us, thy handmaids, for many days no Hebrew women has brought forth upon us, for all the Hebrew women are their own midwives, because they are held. And Pharaoh heard their words and believed them in this matter, and midwives went away from the king, and Elohim dealt with them, and the people multiplied and waxed exceedingly. All right. Oh, real quick, is it verse 15 with Job, just to show you. We have Job from Mesopotamia, the land of Uz. Well, let's go to Job. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. Pretty straightforward, right? And that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared Elohim. And so we don't know, the framing of the book of Job is really hard. Like, in other words, when did Job become righteous, right? And the Most High said unto Satan, how's thou considered my servant Job? There is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth Elohim and escheweth evil. So I don't know. I couldn't tell you exactly the timeline because it doesn't give us obviously a real timeline with Job's life on top of the story on Jasher. But Job, this makes sense. The Most High could have told Job to do that. I don't know if Job was at that time. Like I said, I can't confirm that the timing of Job, but just this in the sense of Job being called that there is none like him in the earth. Does that make sense that he's in this timeline? Because Job wouldn't have got that title if Joseph was still alive. Job wouldn't have got that title if Moses was alive and well at that time. Job was an Edomite man that was called perfect and upright at some time in this history because there was no Israelites that was able to uphold the law because that's when they were in captivity. So it makes sense why Job was the most righteous man at his time frame, because it was the same time that the Israelites wasn't keeping the commandments for the most part, in captivity in Egypt. And to me, it feels like the name change. You brought up the name change, Liz, from Joab, and he later became Job. If you ask me, Joab, he was an Edomite man, sinful man. And that's when he was a king, when he was named Joab in Edom. Job, just like many of the other people in the scriptures, I believe he became Job when he was righteous. So obviously, kind of, sort of, in this passage in Jasher, he's called Job. So possibly, is he reborn right here? And his advice to Pharaoh could have been from the Most High himself. Remember, the Most High brings evil when evil is due. So, very interesting connections here. Trying to make the timeline, but if I had to guess, give an educated guess, that I believe Job is reborn right here, and that's why his name's not Joab, because I believe when he was Joab, he wasn't reborn. I believe Job is the reborn version of him, and just like Joseph worked under Pharaoh, I feel like it's okay for a righteous man to work under Pharaoh, and I believe Job was put in this position to be under Pharaoh for a reason, so the Most High could use him. But like I said, that part is just context, educated, pulling together from my understanding. But just showing you that this is Job, and it makes sense why Job was the righteous of this time, because he was in between Joseph and Moses. All right, let's continue. We're going to read chapter 67. You see how much filler we got? Goodness. Chapter 67 now. We're going to read 8 through 20. And it was after the death of the king of Shittim that Balaam, here we go, Balaam again, the son of Beor, fled from the land of Shittim, and he went and came to Egypt, to Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Pharaoh received him with great honor, for he had heard of his wisdom. And he gave him presents and made him for a counselor and aggrandized him. And Balaam dwelt in Egypt in honor with all the nobles of the kings, and the nobles exalted him because they all coveted to learn his wisdom. And in the 130th year of Yasharallah, going down to Egypt, Pharaoh dreamed that he was sitting upon his kingly throne, and lifted up his eyes and saw an old man standing before him, and there were scales. So Here comes the same like dream vision that we saw in the Targums. Kind of sort of the same description. Scales in his hands of the old man, such scales as are used by merchants. And the old man took the scales and hung them before Pharaoh. And the old man took all the elders of Egypt and all its nobles and great men, and he tied them together and put them in one scale. And he took a milk kid, which we see that this could be a lamb, and he put it into the other scale. And it only makes sense, honestly, for it to be, because a milk kid is talking about obviously a baby cattle, or this kid can be a goat, but kid can also in scripture be interchangeable for just a young cattle. But this makes sense that this is a lamb. And he took a milk kid and he put into the other scale, and the kid preponderated over all. And Pharaoh was astonished at this dreadful vision, why the kid should preponderate. I never heard that word in my life. Over all. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And Pharaoh rose up early in the morning and called all his servants and related to them the dream, and the men were greatly afraid. And the king said to all his wise men, interpret, I pray you, the dream which I dreamed, that I may know it. And Balaam, the son of Beor, answered the king and said unto him. So it was Balaam that interprets this dream. This means nothing else but a great evil that will spring up against Egypt in the latter days. For a son will be born to Israel who will destroy all Egypt and its inhabitants, and bring forth the Israelites from Egypt with a mighty hand. Now therefore, O king, take counsel upon this matter, that you may destroy the hope of the children of Israel and their expectation before this evil arise against Egypt. And the king said unto Balaam, and what shall we do unto Israel? Surely after a certain manner did we at first counsel against them and could not prevail over them. Now therefore give you also advice against them, by which we may prevail over them. And Balaam answered the king, saying, send now and call thy 2 counselors, and we will see what their advice is upon this matter afterward. And afterward thy servant will speak. Oops. Wait a minute, 1 second. All right, yeah, I'm going to cut it up because it's just a lot of reading. So now that being said, we're going to jump to 48 through 61. So if you want to read it on your own time. Some homework to get all because we got Job, and it's crazy. The 2 counselors in the context, I just want to point out, I'm not going to read all the nitty-gritty conversations, but the 2 counselors is 2 people we know from scripture. We have Job and Riel. This guy here will be the stepfather of Moses. This is he has 2 names. This is the I can't, oh my goodness. What is the name of Moses' father-in-law? I meant. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. The Midianite. Anybody help me out? Moses' father-in-law. Jethro. Thank you. This is the same person. So Jethro, the Midianite, and Job from the Uz are 2 people we know from scripture, are the 2 counselors, by the way. Crazy. It's like, really? Like, this blows my mind, all right? Okay, let's keep going. We're jumping to 48 to 61 now. So now the conversation happened. Now, therefore, O king, hear my words, for this is the counsel which is counseled against them, by which thou wilt prevail over them, and from which thou shouldest not depart. If it please the king, let him order all the children which shall be born from this day forward to be thrown into the water, for by this canst thou wipe away their name. For none of them nor of their fathers were tried in this manner. And the king heard the words of Balaam, and the thing pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Balaam. And the king ordered a proclamation to be issued, a law to be made throughout the land of Egypt, saying, every male child born to the Hebrews from this day forward shall be thrown into the water. And Pharaoh called unto all his servants, saying, go now and seek throughout the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel are, and see that every son born to the Hebrews shall be cast into the river, but every daughter shall let live. And when the children of Israel heard this thing, when Pharaoh had commanded to cast their male children into the river, some of the people separated from their wives, and others adhered to them. And from that day forward, when the time of delivery arrived to those women of Israel who had remained with their husbands, they went to the field to bring forth there, and they brought forth in the field and left their children upon the field and returned home. And the Adon, who has sworn to their ancestors to multiply them, sent one of his ministering angels, which are in heaven, to wash each child in water, to anoint and swathe them, and put into its hands 2 smooth stones, from one which it sucked milk, and from the other honey. And he caused its hair to grow to its knees, by which it might cover itself, to comfort it, and to cleave to it through his compassions for it. Very interesting stuff going on right now, right? Let's keep going. And when Elohim had compassion over them and had desired to multiply them upon the face of the land, he ordered his earth to receive them, to be preserved therein till the time of their growing up, after which the earth opened its mouth and vomited them forth, and they sprouted forth from the city like the herb of the earth and the grass of the forest. And they returned, each to his family and to his father's house, and they remained with them. And the babes of the children of Israel were upon the earth like the herb of the field, through Elohim's grace to them. And when all the Egyptians saw this thing, they went forth, each to his field with his yoke of oxen and his plowshare, and they plunged it up as one plunges the earth at seed time. And when they plunged, they were unable to hurt the infants of the children of Israel. So the people increased and waxed exceedingly. And Pharaoh ordered his officers daily to go to Goshen to seek their babes of the children of Israel. And when they had sought and found one, they took it from its mother's bosom by force and threw it into the river. But the female child they left with its mother. Thus did the Egyptians do the Israelites all the days. Wow. Wow. Yes, they separated. That there was, that's what it said when that happened. It says they separated each other. In other words, men stopped having sex with their wives because they didn't want to have death come upon their children. Some of them did that. And there is some crazy comparisons, y'all. Some comparisons that just struck in my mind that I didn't even have notes on. But let's go over some of this real quick. So verse 55. To put into its hands 2 smooth stones, from one which is sucked milk, and from the other honey. So milk is a nurturing, is always referred to nurturing as babies, right? And honey is referred to usually when it talk about is in reference to his commandments, his Torah, the richness and sweetness of honey. So we have a nurturing of a youngin, milk, and the nurturing of honey of the instructions of life, Torah, is given to these children until they're able to spring up. So let's look at this in scripture. This isn't the only spot this is found. We see in Psalms 81:16, he should have fed them also with the finest of wheat, and with honey out of the rock should I have satisfied thee. And then also in Deuteronomy 32, he made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increases of the fields. And he made him to suck honey out of the rock and oil out of the flinty rock. All right. So very cool. Very cool. Let's continue this. This just hit me. Yasharala. Let me add this real quick here. Let me find the verse. All right, one second. I'm going to find it real quick here. Here we go. I'm going to add two verses right here. Let's add Revelation 3. Oh. My bad, Revelation 2. $17, and then we're also going to add Revelation 12. $16. No, we're in the same time frame, right? We're in the book of Revelation. Let's go to that now. So check it out. We have the honey out of the rock. Honey represents his Torah. Revelation 2:17. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Ruach says unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna, and will give him a white stone. And in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receives it. A stone, or I guarantee this is the same word as rock. And we are given rocks and stones to suck honey out of it. And the same way given it to them, they were hidden. This is hidden manna. This is spiritual manna, is what he's referring to. This is the Torah. And then we go, when we are reading in Jasher here, we see, what was it, 67 at the end? We see, after which the earth opened its mouth and vomited them. So the earth helped the infants. The earth nourished them and helped them. This is very similar here. Revelation 12. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And what do you know? They were trying to take the infants and throw them into the water. And then now in the book of Revelation, there was a flood, and the earth swallowed up the flood and protected the woman. Very similar connections from Exodus to the book of Revelation, probably because there's nothing new under the sun. All right. All right. So we are, oh my goodness, we are finally done with chapter 1. Chapter 1 and chapter 2 is like the bulk of it, and then 3 and 4 is very fast. So just, it's a lot, but it's good. It's real good. All right, so that's chapter 1 of Exodus. Let's get into chapter 2 now. We're going to read 1 through 10.
Exodus 2. And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off to wit what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, This is one of the Hebrews' children. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. And the maid went, and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, Take this child away, and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child, and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. She said, Because I drew him out of the water.
Cool little note here. I'm not going to get into a bunch of scripture on it. Just want to speak on it. Moses is the man that was picked to lead Israel out of Egypt. The latter days, we are called to be removed and to get out of her, my people of Babylon, right? And Babylon sits on many waters. Lot of water symbolism here. Moses, the waters and the mixed multitude of the waters of people and nations and kindred in the book of Revelation represents everybody else in the world that is a part of Hasatan's kingdom. So the person that leads his people out of bondage is named after him that is drawn out of water. I don't know if y'all caught that. Moses was drawn out of water, Babylon, and was brought upon land to walk his people through the dry land from between waters. The waters is a whole marine kingdom effect blowing up in the story of the Exodus with water. Everything that has to do with water in the Exodus story is very prominent meanings in there that is overlooked. So just throwing it out there. All right, we're going to go into the Targum. So what I just said, Liz, you want me to say that again? Oh, okay. One more time. Referring to the book of Revelation, the great whore, Babylon, she sits on many waters. Those waters represent pretty much Hasatan's kingdom, which is the entire world, outside of the little bitty remnant of his people that is awakened and called upon, right? looking back at the story of Moses, Moses' name means to draw out of water, meaning Moses grows up in Egypt, and he is pretty much growing up as an Egyptian, but he is drawn out of water into the true light, and he walks his people upon dry land in between the waters, which represents the kingdom of Hasatan. Little, just like I said, just little snippets here and there of the meaning is just as deep as you can go, in other words. All right. We're going to go into the Targum and read verse 1 and 2. Okay, here we go. A little bit more verbiage here. And Abram, a man of the tribe of Levi, went and returned to live in marriage with Jochebed, his wife, whom he had put away on account of the decree of Pharaoh. So someone in the chat said they were separated. Yes, men were scared. Obviously, right here, they were separating because they didn't want their babies to be put to death. So right here, the father of Moses, Aaron and Miriam, actually left his wife initially because of the decree of Pharaoh trying to kill their babies. And she was the daughter of 130 years old when he returned to her, but a miracle was wrought in her, and she returned into her youth as she was when in her minority she was called the daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son at the end of 6 months, and she saw him to be a child of steadfastness and hid him 3 months, which made the number 9. We'll see Jasher says something very close to this. It's just only 1 month, like slightly off, but this sounds pretty true. We'll see the precept in Jasher. And I'm telling you, I love the Targum in Jasher is such an amazing combination to read with. Yeah, like Moses came out early. I mean, pretty straightforward there, huh? All right. Going back to the book of Jasher, a couple of big readings coming up. We're going to read all of chapter 68. So let's get into it. And it was at that time, the spirit of Elohim was upon Miriam, the daughter of Amram, the sister of Aaron. And she went forth and prophesied about the house, saying, behold, a son will be born unto us from my father and mother this time, and he will save Israel from the hands of Egypt. So we see Miriam is a prophet, and she's called a prophetess in the canon, but we don't see really why she's called that. Well, here we go right here. She's given a prophecy right here. This is why she's called a prophetess. And when Abram heard the words of his daughter, he went and took his wife back to the house after he had driven her away at the time when Pharaoh ordered every male child of the house of Jacob to be thrown into the water. So, I mean, look at the connections there. And Abram took Jochebed, his wife, 3 years after he had driven her away, and he came to her and she conceived. So that's if y'all see what's happening, Miriam pretty much convinced Abram, her father, to go back to his wife, because he's like, oh snap, my wife is supposed to have another child. Well, I guess I better go back and sleep with her, right? My bad. Maybe I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And so just see how that ended up working out. The prophecy came to Miriam because Abram needed to hear it more than anybody. So Abram took Jochebed, his wife, 3 years after he had driven her away, and he came to her and she conceived. And at the end of 7 months from her conception, she brought forth a son. The whole house was filled with great light as of the light of the sun and moon at the time of their shining. Look, it sounded something a little bit like Noah. And when the woman saw the child that it was good and pleasing to the sight, she hid it for 3 months in an inner room. In those days, the Egyptians conspired to destroy all the Hebrews there. And the Egyptian women went to Goshen, where the children of Israel were, and they carried their young ones upon their shoulders and their babes who could not yet speak. And in those days, when the women of the children of Israel brought forth, each woman had hidden her son from before the Egyptians, that the Egyptians might not know of their bringing forth and might not destroy them from all the land. And the Egyptians women came to Goshen, and their children who could not speak were upon their shoulders. And when an Egyptian woman came into the house of a Hebrew woman, her babe began to cry. And when it cried, the child that was in the inner room answered it. So the Egyptian women went and told it at the house of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh sent his officers to take the children and slay them. Thus did the Egyptians to the Hebrew women all the days. And it was at that time, about 3 months after Jochebed's concealment of her son, that the thing was known in Pharaoh's house. And the women hastened to take away her son before the officers came. And she took for him an ark of bulrushes and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister Miriam took afar off to know what would be done to him and what will become of her words. And Elohim sent forth at that time a terrible heat in the land of Egypt, which burned up the flesh of man like the sun in his circuit, and it greatly oppressed the Egyptians. And all the Egyptians went down to bathe in the river on the account of the consuming heat, which burned up their flesh. And Bathia, the daughter of Pharaoh, went also to bathe in the river, owing to the consuming heat. And her maidens walked at the riverside, and all the women of Egypt as well. And Bathia lifted up her eyes to the river, and she saw the ark upon the water, and sent her maid to fetch it. And she opened it and saw the child, and behold, the babe wept, and she had compassion on him. And she said, this is one of the Hebrew children. And all the women of Egypt walking on the riverside desired to give him suck, but he would not suck. For this thing was from the Most High, in order to restore him to his mother's breast. And Miriam, his sister, was at that time amongst the Egyptian women at the riverside, and she saw this thing, and she said to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and fetch a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the young woman went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to Jochebed, take this child away and suckle it for me, and I will pay thee thy wages, 2 bits of silver daily. And the woman took the child and nursed it. Like, ain't that crazy? Like, when the Most High softens someone's heart, not only did he allow Moses to live when they're obviously trying to stop a prophecy from happening, when it allowed him to continue to be nursed from the mother, and then they got paid to do so. Like, good gracious. All things is possible through Mashiach and our Heavenly Father, right? And at the end of 2 years, when the child grew up, she brought him to the daughter of Pharaoh, and he was upon her as a son, and she called his name Moses, for she said, because I drew him out of water. And Aram, his father, called his name Chakbar, for he said it was for him that he associated with his wife, whom he had turned away. So we're about to see all the different names of Moses. And Jochebed, his mother, called his name Jethuel, because she said, I have hope for him to the Almighty, and Elohim restored him unto me. And Miriam, his sister, called him Jared, for she descended after him to the river to know what his end would be. And Aaron, his brother, called his name Abi Zenoch, saying, my father left my mother and returned to her on his account. And Keath, the father of Amram, called his name Abigdor, because on his account did Elohim repair the breach of the house of Yaakov, that they could no longer throw their male children into the water. And their nurse called him Abai Sakko, saying, in his tabernacle was he hidden for 3 months on account of the children of Ham. And all the children called his name Shemai, son of Nathal, for they said, in his days has Elohim heard their cries and rescued them from their oppressors. And Moses was in Pharaoh's house and was unto Bethia, Pharaoh's daughter, as a son. And Moses grew up amongst the king's children. Wow. Okay. And you're going to see that, unlike the movie, you know, these movies, right? The big 10 Commandments movie, the old one, 1960 something. The way they write that story is they have it as if they don't know Moses is a Hebrew, but they knew Moses was a Hebrew from the beginning, and it wasn't concealed or hidden. We're going to see that. So just saying that. How many names? We see, we have Moses, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think 8 with Moses, because we have, Moses, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, Moses has 8 names. All right. So that was Moses. All right, where am I at? That was 68. So, okay, 69, 4 through 9. And when Pharaoh, king of Egypt, saw that the counsel which Balaam had advised respecting the children of Yasharallah did not succeed, but that still they were fruitful, multiplied, and increased throughout the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh commanded in those days that a proclamation should be issued throughout Egypt to the children of Israel, saying, no man shall diminish anything of his daily labor, and the man who shall be found deficient in his labor which he performs daily, whether it be mortar or in bricks, then his youngest son shall be put in their place. This is horrible. And the labor of Egypt strengthened upon the children of Israel in those days. And behold, if one brick was deficient in any man's labor, the Egyptians took his youngest boy by force from his mother and put him into the building in the place of the brick which his father had left wanting. And the men of Egypt did so to all the children of Israel day by day, all the days for a long period. But the tribe of Levi did not at that time work with the Israelites, their brethren, from the beginning, for the children of Levi knew the cunning of the Egyptians, which they exercised at first towards the Israelites. Very, very sad. Okay. And now chapter 70. Oh, wow. Do I really have chapter 70, the entire thing? I do. I think this is the last big reading now of Jasher. So let's get it. 1 through 51, the entirety of chapter 70. Obviously, I think it's needed. So let's get it. In the 3rd year from the birth of Moses, Pharaoh was sitting at a banquet. Oh, yes, this is a good chapter. When Al-Parnith, the queen, was sitting at his right and Bathia at his left, and the lad Moses was lying upon her bosom. And Balaam, the son of Beor, man, he's everywhere. He's everywhere in this Torah portion, with his 2 sons, and all the princes of the kingdom were sitting at the table in the king's presence. And the lad stretched forth his hand upon the king's head and took the crown from the king's head and placed it on his own head. And this is a 3-year-old, y'all. And when the king and princes saw the work which the boy had done, the king and princes were terrified. And one man to his neighbor expressed astonishment. I don't know if I'm tripping. This is different times though. But would you really have tripped if a 3-year-old did this? But either way, awesome story. Let's just read it. Let me stop talking. And the king said unto the princes who were before him at table, what speak you and what say you, O ye princes, in this matter? And what is to be the judgment against the boy on the account of this act? And Balaam, the son of Beor, the musician, answered before the king and princes, and he said, remember now, O my lord and king, the dream which thou didst dream many days since, and that which thy servant interpreted unto thee. Now, therefore, this is the child from the Hebrew children in whom the spirit of Elohim, and let not my lord the king imagine that this youngster did this thing without knowledge. So, holy moly, Balaam, he called it. He called it. He's 100% right. That's crazy. And they knew, like I said, they know he's a Hebrew boy. And even Balaam told him that this is the Hebrew boy that the prophecy will be fulfilled through. For he is a Hebrew boy, and wisdom and understanding are with him, although he is yet a child. And with wisdom has he done this, and chosen unto himself the kingdom of Egypt. For this is the manner of all the Hebrews to deceive kings and their nobles, to do all these things cunningly, in order to make the kings of the earth and their men tremble. Surely knoweth that Abraham their father acted thus, who deceived the army of Nimrod, king of Babel, and Amalek, king of Gerar, that he possessed himself of the land of the children of Heth and all the kingdoms of Canaan, and that he descended into Egypt and said of Sarah his wife, she is my sister, in order to mislead Egypt and her king. Her son Isaac also did so when he went to Gerar and dwelt there, and his strength prevailed over the army of Abimelech, king of the Philistines. He also thought of making the kingdom of the Philistines stumble in saying that Rebekah, his wife, was his sister. Jacob also dwelt treacherously with his brother and took from his hand his birthright and his blessing. He went then to Padar Aram to the house of Laban, his mother's brother, and cunningly obtained from him his daughter, his cattle, and all belonging to him, and fled away and returned to the land of Canaan, his father. His sons sold their brother Joseph, who went down into Egypt and became a slave, and was placed in prison, in the prison house for 12 years. I thought it was 10 years. Could be mistaken, but it says 12. Until the former Pharaoh dreamed dreams and withdrew him from the prison house and magnified him above all the princes in Egypt on account of his interpretation, his dreams to him. And when Elohim caused a famine throughout the land, he sent for and brought his father and all his brothers and the whole of his father's house, and supported them without price or reward, and bought the Egyptians for slaves. Now therefore, my lord king, behold, this child has risen up in their stead in Egypt to do according to their deeds and to trifle with every king, prince, and judge. If it please the king, let us now spill his blood upon the ground, lest he grow up and take away the government from thy hand, in hope of Egypt perish after he shall have reigned. Balaam said to the king, let us moreover call all the judges of Egypt and the wise men thereof, and let us know if the judgment of death is due to this boy, as thou didst say. Then we will slay him. And Pharaoh sent and called for all the wise men of Egypt, and they came before the king, and an angel of the Most High came amongst them, and he was like one of the wise men of Egypt. And the king said to the wise men, surely you have heard what this Hebrew boy who is in the house has done, and thus has Balaam judged in this manner. Now judge you also, and see what is due to the boy for the act he has committed. And the angel, who seemed like one of the wise men of Pharaoh, answered and said as follows, before all the wise men of Egypt and before the king and princes, if it please the king, let the king send for men who shall bring before him an ox stone and a coal of fire, and place them before the child. And if the child shall stretch forth his hand and take the ox stone, then shall we know that with wisdom has the youth done all that he has done, and we must slay him. But if he stretch forth his hand upon the coal, then shall we know that it was not with knowledge that he did this thing, and he shall live. And this thing seemed good in the eyes of the king and princes. So the king did according to the word of the angel of the Most High. And the king ordered the ox stone and coal to be brought in place before Moses. And they placed the boy before them. And the lad endeavored to stretch forth his hand to the ox stone. But the angel of the Most High took his hand and placed it upon the coal. Obviously not physically. And the coal became extinguished in his hand, and he lifted it and put it into his mouth, and it burned part of his lips and part of his tongue, and he became heavy in mouth and tongue. So here we have it. This is why Moses was asking for someone to speak on his accord for him, which that became Aaron later, because this is what happened in his youth. He developed speech impediment due to burning of his tongue, right here in the book of Jasher. And when the king and princes saw this, they knew that Moses had not acted with wisdom in taking off the crown from the king's head. So the king and princes refrained from slaying the child. So Moses remained in Pharaoh's house growing up, and the Adon was with him. And while if the boy was in the king's house, he was robed in purple, and he grew amongst the children of the king. And when Moses grew up in the king's house, Bathia, the daughter of Pharaoh, considered him as a son, and all the household of Pharaoh honored him, and all the men of Egypt were afraid of him. And he daily went forth and came into the land of Goshen, where his brethren, the children of Israel, were, and Moses saw them daily in shortness of breath and hard labor. So, like I said, they knew he was a Hebrew, and Moses even was going to see his Hebrew brothers, knowing that he was related to them from the very beginning. And Moses asked them, saying, wherefore this is labor meted out unto you day by day. And they told him all that had befallen them, and all the injunctions which Pharaoh had put upon them before his birth. And they told him all the counsels which Balaam, the son of Beor, had counseled against them, and what he had also counseled against him in order to slay him when he had taken the king's crown from off his head. And when Moses heard these things, his anger was kindled against Balaam, and he sought to kill him. And he was in ambush for him day by day. And Balaam was afraid of Moses. And he and his 2 sons rose up and went forth from Egypt, and they fled and delivered their souls and betook themselves in the land of Cush to Kikianus, king of Cush. And Moses was in the king's house, going out and coming in. And the Adon gave him favor in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants, and in the eyes of all the people of Egypt, and they loved Moses exceedingly. And the day arrived when Moses went to Goshen to see his brethren, that he saw the children of Israel in their burdens and hard labor, and Moses grieved on their account. And Moses returned to Egypt and came to the house of Pharaoh and came before the king, and Moses bowed down before the king. And Moses said unto Pharaoh, I pray thee, my Lord, that I have come to seek a small request from thee. Turn not away my face empty. Pharaoh said unto him, Speak. Moses said unto Pharaoh, Let there be given unto thy servants, the children of Israel, who are in Goshen, one day to rest therein from their labor. And the king answered Moses and said, Behold, I have lifted up thy face in this thing to grant thy request. And Pharaoh ordered a proclamation to be issued throughout Egypt and Goshen, saying, To you, all the children of Israel, thus says the king, for 6 days you shall do your work and labor, but on the 7th day you shall rest, and you shall not perform any work. Thus shall you do all the days, as the king and Moses the son of Bethiah have commanded. And Moses rejoiced at this thing which the king had granted him, and all the children of Israel did as Moses ordered them. For this thing was from the Most High to the children of Israel, for the Adon had begun to remember the children of Israel to save them for the sake of their fathers. And the Most High was with Moses, and his fame went throughout Egypt. And Moses became great in the eyes of all the Egyptians and in the eyes of all the children of Israel, seeking good for his people Israel and speaking words of peace regarding them to the king. So Moses was already putting in work even under the king in his youth, because I believe he's still 17, 18 right here, because he leaves at 18, we'll see later on. So he's still in his youth, and he's already doing work for the kingdom and his people. All right, let's get back into Exodus. Exodus, we're going to do 11 through 15. Whoa, crazy how much they have written in Jasher to fill up little small passages, like a ton. And I'm still not reading all of it. It's just that much. All right, 11 through 15.
And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was found, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way. And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian, and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the 2nd day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to him that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me, as thou killedst the Egyptian? And Moses feared, and said, Surely this thing is known. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well.
Jethro, a Midianite. This is what I was saying. He went to the land of Midian. All right, now let's get back in the book of Jasher, fill in the gap, because he didn't go straight to Midian. He didn't. They just cut to the point. Like I said, that's Genesis is summarizes a lot of what Jasher gives. So now we're going to read 1 through 16 of chapter 71. And when Moses was 18 years old, he desired to see his father and mother, and went to them in Goshen. And when Moses had come near Goshen, he came to the place where the children of Israel were engaged in work, and he observed their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian smiting one of his Hebrew brethren. And when the man who was beaten saw Moses, he ran to him for help, for the man Moses was greatly respected in the house of Pharaoh. And he said to him, "My Lord, attend to me. This Egyptian came to my house in the night, bound me, and came to my wife in my presence, and now he seeks to take my life away." And when Moses heard this wicked thing, his anger was kindled against the Egyptian, and he turned this way and the other. And when he saw there was no man there, he smote the Egyptian and hid him in the sand, and delivered the Hebrew from the hand of him that smote him. And the Hebrew went to his house, and Moses returned to his house, and he went forth and came back to the king's house. And when the man had returned home, he thought of repudiating his wife, for I think I actually looked this up. I forgot how to pronounce it, but this means like turn away, like not sleeping with his wife because of she was raped, obviously. For it was not right in the house of Jacob for any man to come to his wife after she had been defiled, because that's what happened with the Egyptian guard. And the woman went and told her brothers, and the woman's brothers sought to slay him, and he fled to his house and escaped. And on the second day, Moses went forth to his brother and saw, and behold, two men were quarreling. And he said to the wicked one, "Why dost thou smite thy neighbor?" And he answered him and said to him, "Who has set thee for a prince or judge over us? Dost thou think to slay me as thou did slay the Egyptian?" And Moses was afraid and said, "Surely this thing is known." And Pharaoh heard of this affair, and he ordered Moses to be slain. So Elohim sent his angel, and he appeared unto Pharaoh in the likeness of the captain of the guard. And the angel of the Most High took the sword from the hand of the captain of the guard, and took his head off with it, for the likeness of the captain of the guard was turned into the likeness of Moses. And the angel of the Adon took hold of the right hand of Moses, and brought him forth from Egypt, and placed him from without the borders of Egypt, a distance of 40 days' journey. And Aaron, his brother, alone remained in the land of Egypt, and he prophesied to the children of Israel, saying, "Thus says the Most High Elohim of your ancestors, throw away each man the abominations of his eyes, and do not defile yourselves with idols of Egypt." The children of Israel rebelled and would not hearken to Aaron at that time. And the Adon thought to destroy them, were it not that the Most High remembered the covenant which he had made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In those days, the hand of Pharaoh continued to be severe against the children of Israel, and he crushed and oppressed them until the time when Elohim sent forth his word, capital W, and took notice of them. Continuing in chapter 72, 21 through 29. At that time that the war and the siege were against Cush. So this is where Moses goes before he gets to Midian, where he gets his wife and he meets Jethro and all that. But the thing, remember, he's amongst the people of Cush, What do we remember about Balaam? Balaam, the son of Beor, is a part of the adversary of Moses. Even in this time, Moses runs into Balaam amongst the children of Cush, not really face to face, but they were on opposite sides. And you can always read a lot of little details here, but I'm not going to read all of it. Just giving the idea that this is on Moses and Balaam once again is adversaries. All right, what was it again? 21 through 29. At that time that the war and the siege were against Cush, Moses fled from Egypt from Pharaoh, who sought to kill him for having slain the Egyptian. And Moses was 18 years old when he fled from Egypt from the presence of Pharaoh, and he fled and escaped to the camp of Cushites, which at that time was besieging Cush. And Moses was 9 years in the camp of Cushites, king of Cush, all the time that they were besieging Cush. And Moses went out and came in with them. And the king and princes and all the fighting men loved Moses, for he was great and worthy. His statue was like a noble lion. His face was like the sun, and his strength was like that of a lion. And he was counselor to the king. And at the end of 9 years, Cushites was seized with a mortal disease, and his illness prevailed over him, and he died on the 7th day. So his servants embalmed him and carried him and buried him opposite the city gate to the north of the land of Egypt. And they built over him an elegant, strong, and high building, and they placed great stones below. And the king's scribes engraved upon those stones all the might of their king Cushites in all his battles which he had fought. Behold, they are written there at this day. Now after the death of Cushites, king of Cush, it grieved his men and troops greatly on account of the war. And now we're just going to jump to 33 to 37. Now, therefore, let us go and make a king over us, and let us remain in the siege until the city is delivered up to us. And they wished to choose on that day a man for king from the army of Cushites, and they found no subject of their choice like Moses to reign over them. And they hastened and stripped off each man his garments and cast them upon the ground, and they made a great heap and placed Moses upon thereon. And they rose up and blew their trumpets and called out before him and said, "May the king live, may the king live." And all the people and nobles swore upon him to give him for a wife Adoniah, the queen, the Cushite, wife of Cushites, and they made Moses king over them on that day. So Moses became a whole king before he went to Midian. Crazy. Like Moses' life is one of the craziest lives to ever live. For real. Like, just ridiculous. And now we're going all the way to chapter, a lot of details. Chapter 74, 5, but we're going to chapter 76, and we're going to read 1 through 12 now. And Moses, the son of Amram, was still king in the land of Cush in those days. He prospered in his kingdom, and he conducted the government of the children of Cush in justice and righteousness and integrity. And all the children of Cush loved Moses all the days that he reigned over them. And all the inhabitants of the land of Cush were greatly afraid of him. In the 40th year of the reign of Moses, you heard that right, the 40th year, Moses was a king for 40 years over Cush. Moses was sitting on the royal throne while Adoniah, the queen, was before him, and all the nobles were sitting around him. And Adoniah, the queen, said before the king and princes, "What is this thing which you and the children of Cush have done for this long time? Surely you know that for 40 years that this man has reigned over Cush. He has not approached me, nor has he served the gods of the children of Cush. Now, therefore, hear, O ye children of Cush, let this man no more reign over you, as he is not our flesh. Behold, Menacrus, my son, is grown up. Let him reign over you. For it is better for you to serve the son of your Lord than to serve a stranger, slave of the king of Egypt. And all the nobles, all the people and nobles of the children of Cush heard the words which Adoniah, the queen, has spoken in their ears. And all the people were preparing until the evening and in the morning. And they rose up early and made Mikias, son of Kikianus, king over them. And all the children of Cush were afraid to stretch forth their hand against Moses, for the Most High was with Moses. And the children of Cush remembered the oath which they swore unto Moses. Therefore they did no harm to him, but the children of Cush gave many presents to Moses and sent him from them with great honor. So Moses went forth from the land of Cush, and he went home and ceased to reign over Cush. And Moses was 66 years old when he went out of the land of Cush. For the thing was from the Most High, for the period had arrived which he had appointed the days of old to bring forth Israel from the affliction of the children of Ham. All right. Woo! A lot of details. So we got all the details of Moses leaving, what happened before he got to Midian, and that he was a king for 40 years. And now he's 66 years old and he's on his way to Midian. So let's finish chapter 2 of Exodus.
Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. They came and drew water, and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them, and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, How is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, And where is he? Why is it that ye have left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread. And Moses was content to dwell with the man. And he gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter, and she bare him a son. And he called his name Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. And it came to pass, in process of time, that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their groaning. And God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel. God had respect unto them. Right.
Once again, like I spoke about earlier, we see that I don't know why some characters in the word, they have different names at different times. And well, we do know why, their purpose changes a lot of the times when their name is changed. But see, this is the other wise man. The other wise was Reuel, the father of the Moses' father-in-law, and Job was 2 of the wise men that was in Egypt time and time. Okay, let's go to the Targum. I'm going to read 21 through 23. But when Uriel knew that Moshe had fled from before from before Pharaoh, he cast him into a pit. But Zipporah, the daughter of his son, maintained him with food secretly for the time of 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, brought him out of the pit And Moshe went into the bedchamber of Uriel and gave thanks and prayed before the Most High, who by him would work miracles and mighty acts. And there was shown to him the rod, which was created between the evenings, and on which was engraven and set forth the great and glorious name, with which he was to do the wonders in Mizraim, and to divide the sea of Suph. This is the Red Sea. It's just, that's what is spoken of in the Targums. And to bring in forth water from the rock. And it was infixed in the midst of the chamber, and he outstretched forth his hand at once and took it. Then behold, Moshe was willing to dwell with the man, and he gave Zipporah, the daughter of his son, to Moshe. All right. And was it 21 and 22? Oh, 21 through 23. So let's keep going. And she bare him a male child, and he called his name Gershom, because he said, a sojourner have I been in a strange land, which is not mine. And it was after many of those days that the king of Mizraim was struck with the disease and commanded to kill the firstborn of the sons of Israel, that he might bathe himself in their blood. And the sons of Israel groaned with the labor that was hard upon them, and they cried, and their cry ascended to the high heavens of the Most High, and he spoke in his word to deliver them from the travail. And we'll see this in Jasher as well. And, some of you may have heard something of this, that this is the idea of what is it called? A adrenochrome, and what you see celebrities talking about using blood for healthcare reasons and facials. And this is an ancient practice to be using blood, especially children blood. It's highest form of witchcraft in young children. All right, so let's go to the book of Jasher, 76. through 45. And Moses went to Midian, for he was afraid to return to Egypt on account of Pharaoh. And he went and sat at a well of the water in Midian. And the 7 daughters of Uriel, the Midianite, went out to feed their father's flock. And they came to the well and drew water to water their father's flock. So the shepherds of Midian came and drove them away. And Moses rose up and helped them and watered the flock. And they came home to their father Uriel and told him what Moses did for them. And they said, an Egyptian man has delivered us from the hands of the shepherds. He drew up water for us and watered the flock. And Uriel said to his daughters, and where is he? Wherefore have you left the man? And Uriel sent for him and fetched him and brought him home, and he ate bread with him. And Moses related to Uriel that he had fled from Egypt, and that he reigned 40 years over Cush, and that they afterward had taken the government from him and had sent him away in peace with honor and with presents. And when Uriel had heard the words of Moses, Uriel said within himself, I will put this man into the prison house, whereby I shall consolate the children of Cush, for he has fled from them. And they took and put him into the prison house. And Moses was in the prison 10 years. And while if Moses was in the prison house, Zipporah, we read, same stuff the Targums is giving us. In verse 21? Zipporah, the daughter of Uriel, took pity over him and supported him with bread and water all the time. And all the children of Israel were yet in the land of Egypt, serving the Egyptians in all manner of hard work. And the hand of Egypt continued in severity over the children of Israel in those days. At that time, the Most High smote Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he afflicted with the plague of leprosy from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. Owing to the cruel treatment of the children of Israel was this plague at that time from the Most High upon Pharaoh, king of Egypt. One second, let me get a swig of water. Okay. For the Most High had hearkened to the prayer of his people and the children of Israel, and their cry reached him on the account of their hard work. Still, his anger did not turn from them, and the hand of Pharaoh was still stretched out against the children of Israel. And Pharaoh hardened his neck before the Most High, and he increased his yoke over the children of Israel and embittered their lives with all manner of hard work. And when the Most High had afflicted the plague upon Pharaoh, king of Egypt, he asked his wise men and sorcerers to cure him. And his wise men and sorcerers said unto him that if the blood of little children were put into the wounds, he would be healed. There we have it. And Pharaoh hearkened to them and sent his ministers to Goshen to the children of Israel to take their little children. And remember, it says this in scripture, which is why we need to do blood sacrifices for sin, because life, literal life, is in the blood. But they obviously using it the wrong way. And Pharaoh's ministers went and took the infants of the children of Israel from the bosoms of their mothers by force, and they brought them to Pharaoh daily, a child each day. And the physicians killed them and applied them to the plague. Thus did they all the days. And the numbers of the children which Pharaoh slew was 375. Was that like one day for a year? Oh, no, that's 75. That's too many. Never mind. But the Most High hearkened not to the physicians of the king of Egypt, and the plague went on increasingly mightily. And Pharaoh was 10 years afflicted with that plague. Oh my goodness, 10 years. Wow, I didn't remember that. 10 years afflicted with that plague. Still the heart of Pharaoh was more hardened against the children of Israel. And at the end of 10 years, the Most High continued to afflict Pharaoh with destructive plagues. And the Most High smote him with a bad tumor and sickness at the stomach, and that plague turned to a severe boil. At that time, the two ministers of Pharaoh came from the land of Goshen, where all the children of Israel were, and went to the house of Pharaoh and said, we have seen the children of Israel slacken in their work and negligent in their labor. And when Pharaoh heard the words of his ministers, his anger was kindled against the children of Israel exceedingly, for he was greatly grieved at his bodily pain. And he answered and said, now that the children of Israel know that I am ill, they turn and scoff at us. Now, therefore, harness my chariot for me, and I will betake myself to Goshen and will see the scoff of the children of Israel with which they are deriding me. So his servants harnessed the chariot for him, and they took and made him ride upon the horse, for he was not able to ride of himself. And he took with him 10 horsemen, 10 footmen, and went to the children of Israel to Goshen. And when they had come to the border of Egypt, the king's horse passed into a narrow place, elevated in the hollow part of the vineyard, fenced on both sides, the low plain country being on the other side. And the horses ran rapidly in that place, pressed each other, and the other horses pressed the king's horse. And the king's horse fell into the low plain while the king was riding upon it. And when he fell, the chariot turned over the king's face, and the horse lay upon the king. And the king cried out, for his flesh was very sore. And the flesh of the king was torn from him, and his bones were broken, and he could not ride, for this thing was from the Most High to him. For Hiah had heard the cries of his people, the children of Israel, in their affliction. Right, we're going to stop there and go into 77, chapter 77. We're going to read 21 through 51. And the labor imposed upon the children of Israel in those days of, so he passed. I don't mention that. So we're in a new king now. In the days of Adikam, exceeded in hardship that which they performed in the days of his father. And you know what? Let me pause there. I want to see, what is it, 21? Let me go up here real quick. I want to see. I want to just read it. And Adikam was exceedingly ugly, and he was a cubit, so a short man, and a span, and he had a great beard which reached to the soles of his feet. So I just want everyone to have a description of the ugly Pharaoh that is going to be the Pharaoh that is actually, the adversary for the time of the Exodus. All right. Just wanted to read that for kicks. All right. And the children of Israel sighed every day on account of their heavy work, for they had said to themselves, behold, when Pharaoh shall die, his son will rise up and lighten our work. But they increased the latter work more than the former. And the children of Israel sighed at this, and their cry ascended to Elohim on account of their labor. And Elohim heard the voice of the children of Israel in their cry. And in those days, and Elohim remembered to them his covenant, which he had made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Elohim saw the burden of the children of Israel and their heavy work in those days, and he determined to deliver them. And Moses, the son of Amram, was still confined in the dungeon in those days, in the house of Reuel, the Midianite. And Zipporah, the daughter of Reuel, did support him with food secretly by day. And Moses was confined in the dungeon in the house of Reuel for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, which was the first year of the reign of Pharaoh over Egypt, in the place of his father. So we see the change there. Moses is officially out of the 10-year prison. And so the same time, there's a new Pharaoh. Zipporah said to her father, Uriel, no person inquires or seeks after the Hebrew man, whom thou didst bind in prison now 10 years. Now, therefore, if it seem good in thy sight, let us send and see whether he is living or dead. But her father knew not that she had supported him. And Uriel, her father, answered and said to her, has ever such a thing happened that a man should be shut up in prison without food for 10 years, that he should live? And Zipporah answered her father, saying, surely thou hast heard that Elohim of the Hebrews is great and awful, and does wonders for them at all times. He was who delivered Abraham from Ur of the Chaldeans, and Isaac from the sword of his father, and Jacob from the angel of the Most High who wrestled with him at the ford of Jabbok. Also with this man, has he done many things. He delivered him from the river in Egypt, from the sword of Pharaoh, and from the children of Cush. So also can he deliver him from famine and make him live? And the thing seemed good in the sight of Uriel, and he did according to the word of his daughter, and sent to the dungeon to ascertain what became of Moses. And he saw, and behold, the man Moses was living in the dungeon, standing upon his feet, praising and praying to Elohim of his ancestors. And Uriel commanded Moses to be brought out of the dungeon. So they shaved him and changed his garments, prison garments, and ate bread. And afterwards, Moses went into the garden of Uel, which was behind the house, and he there prayed to the Most High, his Elohim, who had done mighty wonders for him. And it was that while he prayed, he looked opposite to him, and behold, a sapphire stick was placed in the ground, which was planted in the midst of the garden. And I'm going to go ahead and just pause right there just for these precepts, talking about the sapphire stick. We see, and they saw Elohim of Israel, and they're under his feet, as it were, paved work of a sapphire stone, and as it were, the body of a heaven in his clearness. So we see under his feet was a paved work of sapphire stone, and he was upon his throne. So his throne is sapphire. And Ezekiel also. And above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone. So the sapphire stone represents the throne, kingship of the kingdom. Continuing. And it was that while he prayed, he looked opposite to him, and behold, a sapphire stick was placed in the ground, which was planted in the midst of the garden. And he approached the stick, and he looked, and behold, the name of Elohim of hosts was engraved thereon, written and developed upon the stick. And he read it and stretched forth his hand, and he plucked it like a forest tree from the thicket, and the stick was in his hand. And this is the stick with which all the works of Elohim were performed after he had created heaven and earth and all the hosts of them, sea, rivers, and all their fishes. So if y'all catch this, remember his throne is sapphire stone. And it says, the name is written upon it, and that this is the stick which all the works of Elohim were performed. So who, through the name and power of Hayah, our Father, whose hands created the heavens and the earth? Messiah's, Jasher. Jasher had this same staff. Did y'all catch that? And this is the stick which all the works of Elohim were performed after he had created heaven and earth, all the hosts of them, sea, rivers, and all their fishes. So the stick, which represents the throne of the Most High, with Hayah written upon it, is what Messiah himself used to create the heavens and the earth. And when Elohim had driven Adam from the Garden of Eden, and he took the stick in his hand and went and tilled the ground from which he was taken. And the stick came down to Noah and was given to Shem and his descendants until it came into the hand of Abraham the Hebrew. And when Abraham had given all he had to his son Isaac, he also gave to him this stick. And Jacob had fled from Padan Aram. He took it into his hand, and when he returned to his father, he had not left it behind him. And also when he went down to Egypt, he took it into his hand and gave it to Joseph, one portion above his brethren. For Jacob had taken it by force from his brother Esau. And after the death of Joseph, the nobles of Egypt came into the house of Joseph, and the stick came into the hand of Uel, the Midianite, which we see that Uel was one of the wise men of Pharaoh. And when he went out of Egypt, he took it in his hand and planted it in his garden. And all the mighty men of the Cushites tried to pluck it when they endeavored it, endeavored to get Zipporah, his daughter, but they were not successful, so that the stick remained planted in the garden of Uriel until he came who had a right to it and took it. And when Uriel saw the stick in the hand of Moses, he wondered at it, and he gave him his daughter Zipporah for a wife. So what movie? Once again, we talk about some movies. So the stick remained, the staff remained planted in the garden of Uriel until he came who had a right to take it. Well, I'll show you. Plagiarism. The sword in the stone. King Arthur. We always see it, right? Yeah, right. Thor has the same idea. Telling you, nothing's original. Nothing's original. All right. And 7 through 16 and 78. In those days, Moses, the son of Amram, in Midian, took Zipporah, the daughter of Uriel, the Midianite, for a wife. And Zipporah walked in the ways of the daughters of Jacob. She was nothing short of righteousness of Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah. And Zipporah conceived and bare a son, and called his name Gershom, for he said, I was a stranger in a foreign land. But he circumcised not his foreskin at the command of Uriel, his father-in-law. And she conceived again and bare a son, but circumcised his foreskin, and called his name Eleazar. For Moses said, because the Elohim of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh, king of Egypt, greatly increased the labor of the children of Israel in those days, and continued to make his yoke heavier upon the children of Israel. And he ordered a proclamation to be made in Egypt, saying, give no more straw to the people to make bricks with. Let them go and gather themselves straw as they can find. And the tale of bricks which they shall make, let them give each day, and diminish nothing from them, for they are idle in their work. And the children of Israel heard this, and they mourned inside, and they cried unto the Most High on account of the bitterness of their souls. And the Most High heard the cries of the children of Israel, and saw the oppression with which the Egyptians oppressed them. And the Most High was jealous of his people and his inheritance, and heard their voice, and he resolved to take them out of the affliction of Egypt, to give them to the land of Canaan for a possession. Woo! And we're officially done with chapter 2. Wowzers, so much. All right, now 3 and 4 are very quick, especially compared to these. So we're about done. All right, we're going to read verses 1 through 12 in chapter 3.
Exodus 3. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to...
And right there, the name is changed. It's like there's something happened there, right? Now he's Jethro.
The backside of the desert, and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush, and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows, and I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppress them. Come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said unto God, Who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, Certainly I will be with thee, and this shall be a token unto thee, that I have sent thee. When thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt, ye shall serve God upon this mountain.
All right. Let's go into the Targums. I'm going to read verse 5, 8, and 12. Oh, 1 second. Let me double check something real quick. Okay, let's read it. 5, 8, and 12. And he said, Approach not hither, take the shoe from thy feet, for the place on which thou standest is a holy place, and upon it thou art to receive the law, to teach it to the sons of Yasharallah. So this is the same mountain, same place that he will receive the law. Just wanted to point that out there. Now let's go to verse 8. And I have revealed myself to thee this day, that by my word, that's why I'm showing you this one, my word, they may be delivered from the land of Mizraim, to bring them up out of the unclean land unto a good land, and large in its boundaries, a land of yielding milk and honey, unto the place where dwell the Canaanites. In verse 12. But he said, Therefore my word shall be for thy help, and this shall be the sign to thee that I have sent thee. When thou hast brought the people forth from Mizraim, ye shall worship before the Most High, because ye shall have received the law upon this mountain. All right. Let's continue. Now we're getting to the great I am, or Haya. I am is just not a good translation, by the way, y'all. Just throwing it out there. I am is used for perversion in the Kabbalah, in the Tree of Life, in the Egyptian stuff. Just throwing it out there. But let's read. We're going to finish the chapter 13 through 22.
And Moses said unto God, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, The God of your fathers has sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, What is his name? What shall I say unto them? And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. And God said moreover unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together, and say unto them, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, appeared unto me, saying, I have surely visited you, and seen that which is done to you in Egypt. And I have said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt, unto the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall hearken to thy voice, and thou shalt come, thou and the elders of Israel, unto the king of Egypt, and ye shall say unto him, The Lord God of the Hebrews hath met with us. And now let us go, we beseech thee, 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. And I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go, no, not by a mighty hand. And I will stretch out my hand and smite Egypt with all my wonders, which I will do in the midst thereof. And after that, he will let you go. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And it shall come to pass that when ye go, ye shall not go empty. But every woman shall borrow of her neighbor, and of her that sojourneth in her house, jewels of silver, and jewels of gold, and raiment. And ye shall put them upon your sons, and upon your daughters, and ye shall spoil the Egyptians.
All right. So we have Haya mentioning his name. Saying, what is his name? Let's go into the Targum now. So the Targum, we're going to read, it just reads better in full capacity in the Targums either way. We're going to read 3:13 through 15. And Moshe said before the Most High, behold, I will go to the sons of Yasharallah and say to them, the Adon Elohim of your fathers has sent me to you, and they will say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? And the Most High said unto Moshe, he who speak in the world was, who spoke and all things were. I want to say that again. I really like the breakdown in the Targum. He who spoke in the world was, who spoke and all things were. And he said, this thou shalt say to the sons of Yasharallah, I am he who is and who will be, has sent me unto you. And the Most High said unto Moshe, thus shalt thou speak to the sons of Yasharallah, the Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, and Elohim of Jacob has sent me unto you. This is his name forever. And this is his memorial to every generation and generation. And I'm going to say this is not a name study, but I'm going to poke at it because I can't help it. We are doing line by line. And the Tetragrammaton, YHWH, where is this at in the canon? Because this is where we get Haya, Ashar, Ahaya. And then they go, but that's not his name. He tells you the memorial is here when it says the Lord God. The Tetragrammaton is Lord here. So the Tetragrammaton God of your fathers is the memorials. Well, that's funny because in older manuscript, it doesn't exist right here. This is supposed to be the Tetragrammaton, God of your fathers. There is no Tetragrammaton in older manuscript. Well, that's interesting because that's the only reason why you would call him that, because you believe is his memorial, but it doesn't exist. So the only name he gives us is this name. And there is an actual witness of this, that Haya is his memorial name. And it's found in the book of Gad, which is confirmed to be scripture. And where is it quoted? Can't think off the top of my head. Samuel, he's a prophet of Samuel. But I have a reading on this. This is actually mentioned in the canon as written in Gad the seer. And what is written in Gad the seer? Chapter 1, verse 54. The one dressed in linen came down to me and touched me, saying, write these words and seal them with the seal of truth, for Haya, Ashar, Haya is my name. There's no Tetragrammaton here. And with my name, you shall bless the whole house of Yasharallah, for they are of a true seed. So there's no tetragrammaton here. There's no Lord, YHWH. It's Ahaya, Ashar Ahaya is my name. And with my name, you shall bless my people. So we have a book that not really touched because it's not really known. Gad the seer, there's no insert of the tetragrammaton. This is the name that we shall be blessed with. And in an older manuscript that's a little bit less touched than our modern day canon, there is no Lord. So just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there. And little things like this is why I hold strong and I don't need to budge on anything. I am good on Haya, or Haya is completely fine too. I just think Haya is the most authentic and realest form of his name because that is everywhere. Haya is more of a sentence compound of who he's explaining he is as a name in the context of that. Haya is existence in life. Haya is saying, I am existence in life. Just throwing it out there. And okay, so I got one more precept here. We see in verse 16, he says, go and gather the elders of Israel together and say unto them, the Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob appeared unto me, saying, I have surely visited you and seen that which is done to you in Egypt. This is a prophecy. Why did he say, go to the elders of Israel and say this to them? Because this is what they've been waiting for. This is a prophecy given to us by Joseph. Genesis 50:24, and Joseph said unto his brethren, I die, and Elohim will surely visit you and bring you out of the land unto the land which we swear to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. So this is why he said it, because everyone's waiting on the prophecy of Joseph to bring them out of the land. So he tells Moses, hey, go tell them this prophecy is about to be fulfilled. All right, and we just got 17 verses in chapter 4, and we are done. Let's get it.
Exodus 4. And Moses answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, but they will say, the Lord hath not appeared unto thee. And the Lord said unto him, what is that in thine hand? And he said, a rod. And he said, cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it. And the Lord said unto Moses, put forth thine hand, and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand, and caught it. And it became a rod in his hand, that they may believe that the Lord God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath appeared unto thee. And the Lord said furthermore unto him, put now thine hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. And he said, put thine hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again, and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these two signs, neither hearken unto thy voice, that thou shalt take of the water of the river, and pour it upon the dry land, and the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon the dry land. And Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I'm slow of speech and of a slow tongue. And the Lord said unto him, Who hath made man's mouth? Or who maketh the dumb, or deaf, or the seeing, or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say. And he said, O my Lord, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him whom thou wilt send. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. And he said, Is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? I know that he can speak well, and also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee. And when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. And thou shalt speak unto him, and put words in his mouth. And I will be with thy mouth, and with his mouth, and will teach you what ye shall do. And he shall be thy spokesman unto the people, and he shall be, even he shall be to thee instead of a mouth, and thou shalt be to him instead of God. And thou shalt take this rod in thine hand, wherewith thou shalt do signs.
Okay, going to stop there. And I didn't like how they translated verse 16. So I'm going to read verse 16 in the Targum just to make it sound better. And thou shalt be to him instead of God. Like, what's that even mean? Like, I didn't like it. So let's just go to 16 for a better breakdown of that. And he shall speak with thee with the people, and be to thee an interpreter, and thou to him the principal, seeking instructions from before the Most High. Much better. Thank you. I did not like that translation. And I'm not going to read it, just throwing this here, that, just a good little breakdown by Stephen in Acts 7 of exactly everything that we read today in this Torah portion of Moses. And I think he did a great job preaching it. And I love, let me see if I can find it. And the very last verse here in 7, verse 35, well, not the last verse of chapter 7, this is just what I have here. This Moses, whom they refused, saying, Who made thee a ruler and a judge? The same did Elohim send to be a ruler and a deliverer by the hand of the angel which appeared to him in the burning bush. So it's just like the Most High works in mysterious ways. The one that they questioned, who has made you ruler? It's like the Most High did. And the Most High gave him glory and power in his name with his staff. Shabbat Shalom, Yasharallah. Woo! This was a long one, but it was jam-packed with righteous wisdom. Thank you to the book of Jasher. But see y'all next Shabbat. Torah portion, part 14, picking up in chapter 4. Shalom.